It's interesting how the universe doesn't respond to effort, but to certainty. I was in this old library with ruins and weeds, and I found a manuscript that someone had almost thrown away. Someone wrote a phrase centuries ago that seemed to challenge all spiritual laws. The only way to find what you're looking for is to stop looking for it. I'm not sure who wrote these words, but I'm grateful to have found them. The message is repeated in countless texts, and it's one that humanity has tried to hide, deny, or just forget. The force more powerful in creation does not come from conscious effort or desire. Insistence seems contrary to everything the world teaches us. Since childhood, society has taught us to be virtuous and work hard to fight against fate and the inaccessible persecution of dreams. However, hidden behind veils that barely touch the wise, there is another way, a law that ancient initiates know. When I called him, he told me that he teaches that true mastery of reality comes from will, but also from the absolute, silent certainty that comes from letting go of the ego. This might seem like a paradox, but it's not that simple. It's like when we feel like persistence is a noble act, and we think that action is necessary to achieve anything valuable. But when we delve deeper into forgotten texts, Gnostic writings, and Hermetic manuscripts, we find that this idea appears again. It's interesting how the universe seems to be at one with our souls, especially when we realize that everything in life has its source in our own hearts. The Gospel of Thomas beautifully captures this idea when it says that what's inside us is connected to what's around us, and that the highs and lows of life are in harmony. When we bring these two concepts together, uniting our inner and outer selves, and when a man and a woman become one, we find ourselves on the path to true inner peace. It's not just about unity, but about merging our desires with the world around us, creating a beautiful union of love and purpose. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that at the time, all external manifestations happen effortlessly because our internal duality melts away. The kingdom mentioned by Thomas isn't some future place or some reward you have to work hard for. It's the reality we have right now. Remember, when you wish for something with so much heart, it's like you're already holding it in your hands. Even the Hermetic texts, those old ones known as the Corpus Hereticum, talk about this. There, Hermistus Magisto says, if you understand that everything you will, you don't need to look outside yourself for what you've always had. Here, we see that the search can sometimes show a lack, while silence, detachment, and certainty can reveal true inner possession, which is a beautiful act of creation. The best way to understand this is to think about water. See how a river flows majestically through the mountains. It has no hurry to reach the sea. It moves slowly, not fighting rocks or curves. I'm so glad you've advanced to the channel. I know you're not strong enough to save the will of the river on your own, but you can trust that by surrendering to the channel, you're allowing the water to go anywhere without resistance. This is the law of effort, also known as the river law. For centuries, this law was hidden under prohibitions or simply ignored by people who preferred to. In his book Almost Forgotten, The Book of Silence, the wise medieval Ka of Ochim shares a beautiful message about effort. He writes, only when you stop wanting and to pursue your essential being begins to show all things to you. This secret, hidden in plain sight, is that constant effort affirms separation between desire and compliance. But when you find inner silence, that separation dissolves, and reality manifests without intermediaries. The ancient Taoist traditions of We the Non also affirm this idea. Action Art Laos in the Talk Chin wrote, the wise know nothing, and yet nothing remains without get. The phrase the wise know nothing might seem a bit confusing at first, but it's actually full of wisdom. It's like a secret that only opens when you're ready to let go of the old ways of thinking. Understanding isn't about passivity, but about letting go of inner resistance. It's about making each act and movement perfect, as if they were guided by a true teacher, a spiritual guide. According to this teaching, ancestors don't act from a place of effort, but from a deep, unwavering belief that their true essence is one with all that exists. All these texts, from different times and places, are pointing to the same thing, a truth that's been repeated throughout the ages and that draws us towards a state of yes, a state of oneness with everything that exists. I know that absolute manifestation isn't for everyone, but I want to share something that has worked for me. Many great teachers of all spiritual traditions have kept this principle as a reserved secret, only for those capable of looking more deeply into the world around us. This book isn't about teaching you to ask for or strive better. It's about discovering how to quit and do it. In each chapter that follows, you will travel. We're going to take a deep dive into the hidden depths of the human spirit, and we'll be joined by voices from forgotten texts, prohibited manuscripts, and reflections tucked away in the corners less traveled by thought and spirit. Each of these chapters is like a gentle descent into a new revelation, deep and challenging, that gently but surely challenges the idea that to have something, you need to fight for it. This is the paradox that we're going to explore here, and we're all in for it. Who needs to possess everything? Who needs to search for what they long for? Who needs to order or beg the universe? Discover the wonder of it, my friend. The universe is now obedient to all its orders. To understand the depth of this teaching, first you must make a silent vote with yourself. Don't declare with words, because they create separation again. Simply. You don't have to worry about getting results. Let the river inside you flow freely towards the infinite sea that waits in each chapter. In each chapter, you'll learn a new aspect of this law. Otherwise, the river flows without pressure or control. Every step forward will be one more deep, and each revelation will be the conscious resignation to another level of effort. Let go of the need for results and allow the river within you to flow freely towards the infinite sea waiting in each chapter. This law will unveil a new aspect of the river's natural flow, one that moves without pressure or control. With each step forward, you'll find yourself growing deeper, and with each revelation, you'll experience a deeper level of effort and resistance. Remember, your certainty in the silent force that guides all things is what makes all things occur. This journey begins with a total abandonment of effort in the absolute silence of no longer needing to ask for anything else. Perhaps, for the first time in your life, you'll discover the definitive and secret force that ancient teachers spoke of when they said, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Remember, effort doesn't always lead to success. Sometimes, the best thing to do is just to let go and be still. That's when miracles can happen. It's like you're tapping into a hidden power, like the ancient teachers talked about. They said, if you stop searching, you'll find what you're looking for. It's like you're turning the world upside down. The ones who try to control everything are the ones who are missing out. When you listen to your subconscious, you open a world of possibilities. We've noticed that a lot of you are visiting our channel without subscribing. If you're enjoying our content, please consider subscribing. And if you like a video, hit that like button. Thanks for being a part of our community. We're making more and better content for you to help you transform your life. Chapter 1, The Mandate of Vacuum. When you no longer need everything, an old registration carved in the temple stone is reduced to dust. For time, he prayed with clarity, disturbing who continuously seeks. Whoever ceases in his search, reaches eternity. This sentence emerges from the darkness of the centuries like a gentle, but strong, light reveal one of the deepest, most complex paradoxes of the human experience. What we yearn for most often doesn't arrive when we ask for it, but when we stop needing it. At the exact moment we stop pursuing it, the universe begins to deliver. This is because we are moved by a subtle and silent law whose true power resides in emptiness. It can be challenging to accept that the secret you can possess it by simply letting go of all your attachments, both conscious and unconscious, to outcomes. This knowledge challenges all the conventional ways of thinking. Popular wisdom says that life requires constant effort and struggle. But if you take a closer look at forgotten texts and ancient manuscripts, you'll see that the truth is different. The nature of reality doesn't fit this belief about creation. You don't have to work so hard to be happy. In fact, the universe will give you everything you need if you let go of your attachments. This might seem strange, but it's true. According to an old text called the Treaty of Detachment, the universe is already complete. It doesn't need your efforts to make it better. You just have to stop worrying about what you want and let go of your expectations. Then, the universe will take care of everything. While thinking about what you want to be, remember that letting go of your hopes and dreams can open the door to unexpected discoveries. This message, which might seem like a call to give up on life, is really about embracing the unknown with open arms. It's not about leaving life behind, but about letting go of the idea that life has to be a certain way. In our tradition, there's a beautiful story that perfectly captures this idea. There was a young student who came to a respected teacher and asked, "How can I reach enlightenment?" The teacher, known as Vira, didn't say much for a long time as she carefully poured tea into a cup. After a while, the young man said, surprised, "Master, the cup is already full." The wise ones responded with this lovely sentiment: you are full of expectations and yearnings until you empty your cup. You can never drink the truth. This metaphor is repeated over and over in spiritual texts from all different times. It always reveals the same teaching: the void is what gives way to the filling. The absence of necessity is what is required to receive. But this idea isn't just an Oriental thought. In the West, great teachers and mystics reach the same conclusion in their own ways. Meister Eckhart, the great sage of the Middle Ages, wrote about it with powerful simplicity: who out there is afraid of anything? And who fears everything? Pericot's detachment wasn't an act of selfishness. It was a deep recognition that true possession doesn't depend on possession, but on releasing what we hold on to. Our inner emptiness becomes a magnet for the abundance of the universe, because when we let go of expectations, we open the door to receiving all that we need. In this same sense, Philippe's gospel, Gnosticus, was considered heretical by the ancient religious leaders. It teaches us to see with clarity. You don't need to worry about anything because you've already got everything you need. If you can let go of the idea that you're lacking something, you'll be able to find true fulfillment. These words might seem a bit different from what most religious teachings say, because they challenge the idea that you have to work hard to be rewarded. But if you can fully accept what you have, you'll find that you're already enough. This idea might seem a little strange at first, but it's actually based on something really deep and meaningful. A lot of people didn't understand it, but it was explained beautifully by a Taoist named Chuan, who wrote about it more than 2,000 years ago. Yes, you are looking for what you still have never truly free, but when you recognize that everything already belongs to you, the doors of heaven and earth open from the universe. According to Chuan, I know that the universe is not indifferent to our needs, but rather an exact reflection of our internal state. When you live from a place of internal fullness, external reality has no choice but to reflect that. Yes, you are looking for what you have never really free, but when you realize that everything you have is already yours, all the doors of heaven and earth open from the universe. According to Chuan, I know the universe is not indifferent to our needs, but it's a perfect reflection of our inner state. When you live from a place of inner fullness, external reality has no choice but to reflect that same fullness. The universe never responds to our desires, but it does respond to our internal state. As one who manifests said, I wish attachment creates distance, distance creates anxiety, and anxiety becomes an invisible wall that separates the search engine from what seeks. By letting go of attachment, you can break down that wall and find what you seek. The universe is always there for you, just as it is. The secret to getting what you want is to let go of the need to have it. When you let go, you'll feel a sense of freedom and clarity. It's amazing how, when you let go of your attachments, things that seemed out of reach or unattainable start to feel closer and more accessible. That's why spiritual practices are so important. They help you release the things you've accumulated, like expectations and preconceived notions. When you let go of all that stuff, it's not a loss. It's a kind of freedom. You're returning to a place of infinite possibility because nothing is required. It's simple, but it's not easy. It doesn't require complicated or esoteric techniques. The difficulty lies only in the courage necessary for letting go. Emptiness is not a bad thing. It's actually a really special place to be. It's like a clean slate, a fresh start, where anything is possible. It's not about doing complicated things or using tricky techniques. It's about having the courage to let go and trust that things will work out. This idea is at the heart of this teaching. It's a deep mystery, something that can transform your life. When you let go of your yearnings and let your heart stop, you'll see that the whole universe is out there looking for you. In the end, you don't answer this question with words. You carry it with you, and that's the beautiful thing. Silence is like a magic key that opens the door to the mystery of the vacuum. It's a door you can open to release all that you thought you finally found. Everything you are looking for can be found in Chapter 2. It's a will that doesn't want the self that observes and orders without supplication. It's an old voice, almost erased by the sands of time, that once whispered truth. Shudder is not in those who ask or beg, but in he thinks about it, and then he makes a decision. This is a really interesting thing that was written down in an Egyptian papyrus, and it's like a hidden treasure. Even in the shadows of the desert, there's a really special key to nature. It's like a hidden force that works beyond what we want. So, consciousness isn't about the usual way we think, like fighting or begging to the universe. It's about a deeper, more powerful, and quiet will that's hidden in your stillness. You know, I've always thought that humanity has a lot to offer. We've been observing and taking in everything around us without an ear for attachment to the result. We've been believing that the will is the ability to desire intensely to get it to fight with nails and teeth for what you want. But there's a higher will, your T, described in old teachings hermetic with words as lucid as you will forget. In the text known as the Heliopolis Temple manuscript, it all comes together beautifully. The authentic will simply wants what's best for you. It doesn't want anything from you, but it does want you to know that you have everything you've always wanted. This will isn't forced or anxious. It's just a simple observation from a deep, quiet place. I don't ask or beg, but I do invite you to feel the universe from silence. You'll see that the universe will obey you without resistance. How is this silent will manifested in being human? The Christian mystical tradition offers some clues in the pieces of the unknown 14th monk, known as God's friend, who wrote with notable depth, "My dear friend, when you have let go of all your desires, you will have found the will of the divine. And when you have that, you will understand that you don't need to ask. It's not enough that your silent look is moving in your favor." Double quote. Here, we see that this will not come from the mind's surface, but from a deep connection with the very source of the universe. It's a state where simply being still and observing becomes an act of creation. This same secret is also found in ancient Sufi texts and mystical writings. It's so interesting how this idea shows up in different spiritual traditions. In the Sufi writings, for example, there's this concept that true spiritual power comes from being fully present and aware. It's like, the highest purpose isn't about demanding or begging for things, but about being still and thoughtful. When you're truly present and aware, you're not attached to any specific way of doing things, you're not needing to speak up, and you're able to be heard without saying a word. In Arabi's teaching reveals a deep universal truth: when we stop being slaves to our own wishes, we become the silent masters who simply observe and allow creation to follow our instructions. In this spiritual vision, the self ceases to be an identity limited to being a supplicant and becomes an observer in unlimited awareness. This concept is deeply entrenched in Taoism, especially in the writings of the AOC, who said in Tao Te Ching, "The wise does nothing, but nothing is left without." Get your will. You don't have to yearn for this, my friend. Everything you obey will be described by Lao Tzu. When you're not wishing for anything, you're in a state of total openness, and that's when you're in perfect flow with existence. It's a beautiful place of complete acceptance, where the will isn't forced. It just naturally appears as part of the universal order, like it is in the old texts of Gnosticism. We also find the same wisdom in the Gospel of Thomas, a hidden text that was rediscovered in Nagari. Read it and you'll see what I mean. You don't have to ask for anything because your will is the will, and what your gaze orders will happen. This passage highlights the idea that true will belongs to the complete universal self, not the little fragmented and anxious self. The interior unit eliminates all resistance, making any plea unnecessary. A simple look is enough to manifest what has always been there. This concept has been frequently misunderstood, but I'm here to help you understand it. It's easy to underestimate this because it challenges the idea that effort and merit are the only ways to get results. But spiritual teachers of all times have said that this is the key to understanding how the universe really operates. In the words of Nisara Tamarat, a master from the 20th century, you observe without detachment, and what you want from anxiety remains forever separated from you. From this perspective, the true will is not an impulse. It's an effort that comes from within or from without, but it's a quiet acknowledgement of the incredible power that's present in everyday observations. The great medieval alchemist Paracelso captured this beautifully in one of his treatises when he wrote, "The true power of a magician doesn't lie in asking for favors, but in calmly contemplating what's already yours." This contemplation is all it takes to align all the invisible forces in your favor. In this way, your will becomes an act of inner transformation. Alchemy is a gentle process. When you're at your most still, you can gently transform the outside world around you. This is the secret I'm here to share with you. You don't have to ask for anyone's recognition. You just have to know that your true desires have already been met the moment you express them. When you speak from your heart, you're not divided. When you're quiet, you're connected. And that's when all the forces of the universe work for you. As we close this chapter, I'd like to offer a heartfelt invitation to let go of the idea that we have to beg or force our reality. The true mastery lies in reflecting from a place of wanting, not from a God who's silent and just watching, knowing that everything he sees is his right to consciousness. So, here's one final thought to ponder, one that's meant to resonate with you in the silence, with enough strength to shake your deepest beliefs that we've held for a long time, can open the door to a new way of being. When you stop asking with the voice of desire and start ordering with the silent look of the soul, you will be amazed at what you can manifest. In the spiritual history of humankind, there's a knowledge that few have dared to listen to and even fewer have been able to apply. This forgotten wisdom, known to initiated and mystical poets, says, "You know, what you're looking for can't be found by asking for it. Asking always comes from a place of need, and that's exactly what keeps holding you back from experiencing the true creative magic. When you're in a state of true creativity, you don't need to ask for it. You're not worried about what others might think, and you're not trying to be anyone's hero." In the old manuscripts, there's a beautiful way this idea is explained. It says, when you're in tune with the universe, you don't need to say a word. Let the world speak through you. Everything here is made of stillness, and it's so powerful that it's like 1,000 actions rolled into one. Leo isn't just about passivity, but about being in such deep connection with the flow of the universe that everything that needs to happen just does. When you're in this state of consciousness, silence is a way of saying no to the ego, the part of us that always needs to do and control. It's like letting your spirit take the lead and act from a higher plane where reality just happens without any struggle. You know, this teaching is also revealed in Jewish mysticism, especially in the beautiful tradition of Kabbalah, in the central work of Kabbalah written in symbolic language. It says, in the stillness of the mind lies the manifestation, who silences his wishes, orders the universe without the need for words. The ancient Kabbalists perfectly understood that the secret does not reside in desperate prayer, but in the interior contemplation that shuts up and listens to the constant noise of our world. The deep voice of being emerges from desire, capable of manifesting realities with simple intention, without asking or making great external movements. In the tradition, I suffered the Master Rumi address this same principle of form. Poetic and illuminator, remain in the silence of your heart without the need to ask for hidden treasures to come to you like imitated. Silent Rumi knew that when the human being leaves to tirelessly pursue what they want to enter such a deep, it's so wonderful to realize that manifestation happens effortlessly and spontaneously. This truth is revolutionary because it contrasts with our human instinct to fight constantly. Silence is rebellion because it questions the dominant paradigm of effort and control, inviting us to fully trust the intelligence of the universe. An ancient Hindu proverb transmitted orally during generations by the sages of the Himalayas says, "The one who truly understands the still doesn't need to ask anything of the gods." Your silence is like a gentle command that the universe listens to. This is a beautiful proverb from our ancestors. In the West, it reveals a truth that is deeply spiritual. When we don't ask for anything, we show a kind of spiritual authority that knows no limits. Then, the universe responds not to our pleas but to the silent certainty of whom we already have within ourselves. This silent act is not passivity, but the highest form of action described in tradition. In the Buddhist Zen tradition, it's called WWE, or action without effort. In teachers' texts, it's called Sendogen. I'll explain this idea with a simple truth that makes everything clear. When you understand silence, your actions become as natural as breathing. You don't just let life happen, you allow it to flow through you. This idea encourages us to let go of fighting all the time and embrace a more genuine way of being and acting, where reality comes naturally. In response to stillness, interior. This idea is also found in less Gnostic writings known as Philippe's Gospel. Where is this mysterious phrase, "Don't ask, don't look"? When you stop chasing that, what do you want to realize? You already possess the principle of silence, which will be your word and your action. This passage reinforces the central idea of this spiritual rebellion. Stop asking is the supreme act of creation because it implies a state of fullness that naturally attracts everything desired towards itself. In ancient Greece, the teachers of the initiatory schools, such as Pythagoras and the followers of Orcism, taught this same principle with absolute hermeticism in an attributed anonymous text. The Pythagorean school appears to have used the phrase, "the most powerful will does not ask." You don't want to simply know, my friend. And in your silent knowing, the world unfolds effortlessly. The Pythagoreans understood the alchemy of silence, knowing that true action begins within, manifesting later on the outside. This ancient wisdom gently encourages us to break free from the conditioning imposed by constant needs, to live more deeply and to fight. Christian mysticism, like the one that flourished in the Meisterworks, speaks to this same truth. Eckhart wrote with deep clarity, "When you empty yourself of desires, God himself will become your desire is silent, and everything you didn't ask for will be this void of desire." Eckhart says that it's the highest form of prayer because you don't have to ask for anything. You can just sit and think about it, and receive. In this deep silence, you discover your true power as a human being. This wisdom is revolutionary against the logic of the dominant world because it means you don't have to keep fighting and trust in a higher power that works without resistance. It's a quiet rebellion against the constant noise of desire. A peaceful manifestation born from the deepest, most authentic self, without the need for words or requests. The rebellion of silence beautifully shows that the most powerful action is not to make a frantic effort, but to spontaneously let go of the need to be silent. When you stop asking, you discover that you have always possessed everything you need. The manifestation happens naturally from within, as it is already full. This final reflection leaves a deep impression on the reader. Spiritual seed, I invite you to discover the infinite power that lies in your own silence. You will be able to rebel against your own desire to stop asking questions and thus allow the universe to act through your still more deep chapter. The I that dreams of the world creation, aware from the dream of the self, superior in the confines of the awareness in those vast territories that border the vigil and sleep, and do a secret that ancient wise and visionaries revealed in their writings more hidden and in their meditations more deep. Their world we perceive is simply a reflection of our own inner I. We are not just simple spectators of reality, we are the I itself, dreaming this existence. So, the vision will manifest from the self, which is a higher consciousness than the sublime and silent act of sounds to the universe in which we inhabit, this ancestral knowledge insinuated in esoteric traditions. Since time immemorial, this poetic and exact expression has been found in the words of Chuanzu Sabio, a Taoist master who masterfully reflected it. Have you ever wondered about the mystery of sleep and reality? I'll tell you about a dream I had once that might just shed some light on this. I dreamed that a butterfly fluttered happily, and when I woke up, I was confused. I wondered if it was Chuanzu sounding like a butterfly, or if it was a butterfly sounding like Chuanzu. This metaphor illustrates perfectly the mystical vision of the world as a continuous creation of the self. The self is like a superior being who, from their position of absolute observer, projects infinite possibilities on the screen of our awareness. This teaching coincides also with the shamanic worldview, especially in old Toltec traditions. The former seers of Mexico talked about a conscience that's like a cosmic being, and they called it the eagle. They said that the eagle's eye dreams the world, and Carlos Castaneda said that this is how the wisdom of Don Juan Matus gets passed on. It's like the world we believe is solid and real is just the manifestation of the eagle's dream. Our true power lies in being aware of that sleep. When we recognize this, we also accept that the most powerful creative act is to wake up in sleep itself, being fully aware of our ability to. Hey, let's talk about how we can shape our reality from within. The Hermetic tradition, especially in the mysterious text known as the Corpus Hermeticum, shares a really profound truth. It says that the universe is like a mental image created by the I that sees everything. So, if you connect with that ultimate I of creation, it's like you're in tune with your true self. And, as Silent Hermes points out, we're not just simple observers, but we're actually part of the creation process, and we're aware of it. Hey, friend. Here's something to keep in mind. Always remember to be your best self. This idea is also found in some less well-known Hindu texts, especially in Siddhism of Kashmir. In a text called Chivitras, it says, "The world is like a movie, and we're the movie makers. When we open our eyes, we can see the world around us. And when we open our eyes fully, we can understand that we are the ones who dream the world, and we can change it." This wisdom shows us that the key is not in changing the world around us, but in opening our eyes. Consciousness, sleep, and our true nature as conscious dreamers of the universe. In the Gnostic tradition, the Gospel of Truth, an apocryphal text attributed to Valentin, offers a similar vision. It reveals that the world is a creation of the invisible Father, who imagines it continuously in his eternal dream. He recognizes this. He wakes up inside the dream, and his I becomes the divine I that creates reality. Here, the crucial importance emphasizes consciousness awake within the dream cosmic to be. Sleep on, my friend, and let your mind wander as you imagine the vast potential of the I interior, the place where our reality is shaped by our focus. In a beautiful parallel, the wise poet Persifazo Aldina speaks of this concept in his work, The Bird Conference. He gently reminds us that our reality is like a mirror of the divine I within each of us. What you see outside is simply a reflection of your own inner I. Your perspective, my friend, can truly change everything around you. By opening our eyes to this truth, we can awaken our higher self and bring more love and understanding into the world. In the beautiful and mystical world of Kabbalah, there's a fascinating concept that beautifully combines sound and creativity. It's all about the infinite and mysterious power of creation, which originates from a place of pure vision. The brilliant Kabbalist Moises Cordovero beautifully captures this idea in his work, Rimonim, where he writes about how recognizing our connection to the infinite vision of lens becomes like a pair of eyes that not only observes, but also creates. It's like we're shaping our reality, one thought at a time, through the lens of our own unique perspective. In the beautiful tradition of Mudista Mahayana, creation is a conscious act that comes from within, from truly recognizing that sleep is divine. The wise Nagarjuna philosopher explored the same idea in your wonderful treatise about emptiness and how reality is created from the mind. With deep clarity, Nagarjuna said, reality is empty, a consciousness projection. When this awareness awakens, you can fully understand that everything that exists is a dream of the I. Interior to Nagarjuna, the creation aware of the world only occurs when you're having a restful night's sleep, you might feel like you're starting to wake up. This is a time when you can really understand your role as a dreamer supreme. The old schools of Egyptian mysteries talk about this a lot, especially in alchemical texts and the mysterious papyri found in forgotten temples. This idea is also found in other cultures. The idea is that universal consciousness is like an eye that creates reality. When the inner eye awakens, it's like the creation obeys the most subtle intention of the spirit illuminated. This old Egyptian fragment, preserved in medieval alchemical texts, confirms the central idea that our true spiritual task, it's not about changing the outside, but rather, fully awakening the inside. In the beautiful tradition of mystical Christian Meister Eckhart, we find this essential truth beautifully summed up in terms of absolute spiritual clarity. The eye of the one who sees God is the same eye with which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one, and that eye dreams of the world in perfect unity. For Carpentier, recognizing this beautiful identity between the human eye and the divine eye was the deeper act of awakening the spirit, allowing us to transform reality from within. In the blink of an eye, you will have the final clue that uploading all these different traditions is simple and strong. The world we live in isn't something that's forced on us, but it's something we've all made together. We're all dreamers of the universe, and we're here to wake up and use our creative energy in a calm and quiet way. To finish this chapter, let's end with a deep, spiritual, and meaningful question that shows the way to follow. Hey, why not try something new? What if you could wake up in your own dream and realize that you're the one creating the world? And then, you could use that awareness to make some positive changes in your life. Picture this, you've got this inner eye that can see everything so clearly. It's like you're in a desert, but instead of being lost, you're finding your way. This is what we call Chapter 5, the Desert of Expectations. It's like the end of a journey, and you're finally reaching the ancient mystical traditions. There are whispers of the past, and they are guiding you towards a new path. It's like you're following the footsteps of the wise ones from the past, but you're also following your own heart's path. There's a gentle nudge, a quiet suggestion, to be aware of the potential challenges in life, which can be tricky because they are often linked to our expectations. The spiritual wanderer, often talked about in old texts, is like a beggar, wandering through the desert of his own imagination, asking the universe for gifts that are actually within reach. But he's caught up in his own desires, thinking he needs something more, when in reality, he's already got everything he needs. It never arrives precisely because it doesn't understand that our expectations are what create our own limitations. In Thomas's Gospel, a Gnostic writing whose truth transcends time, we find the relevant warning about this particular inner state. When I arrived, you are the place where there is no expectation. Then you will find. It's like when you're searching for something, but you're not expecting to find it. You're so focused on what you're looking for that you miss the beauty right in front of you. That's where the kingdom is, but you have to be willing to let go of your expectations. These words from the Sufi tradition are like a treasure map. They show us that the key to finding our true self is to let go of the idea that something from the outside will complete us. Instead, they remind us that our reality is already complete and we just need to trust that. The wise Abu al-Kharaz illustrates this concept beautifully in the history of the spiritual beggar. In one of his dialogues collected in Persian manuscripts forgotten, he said, "The spiritual beggar is the one who continues to knock on external doors without realizing that it has the key. When abandoning expectations, the teacher realizes that he has never lacked anything." For the Sufi, this resignation to the obsessive waiting is not a defeat, but a kind of spiritual victory. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but try not to lose hope. In the teachings of Sadokadi Yokadesi, there's a deep reflection on the importance of letting go of expectations. It's a reminder that when we're on a spiritual journey, we might feel like we're walking around with our eyes on the prize, but it's more about the journey itself. It's a journey through the desert, and it's endless, but who stops to realize that the awakening is already within? He finds solace in every grain of sand. Yokada points out a universal truth, and Perinia. While the search engine keeps us waiting, the awakening will keep on going, caught in an illusion that precisely prevents us from recognizing the fullness that's already present in the present moment. You know, I think there's a lot of wisdom in the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. He's one of the most profound and yet often overlooked wise ones of the past century. In his little-known dialogues with devotees, he said something really beautiful: if you're waiting for something from the world or you're in awakening, you might not fully understand your true nature until you stop asking for spiritual answers and realize that what you've always been searching for is right in front of you. Mars reminds us that it's essential to let go of all our spiritual expectations and just be. It's like when you're in a dark night of the soul, and you let go of all your plans and hopes. That's when the soul is able to connect with the divine in a deeper way. It's like San Juan de la Cruz, a mystic from Christianity, said in his most personal writings, which are kept safe in the Carmelite monasteries. He talks about this dark night as a time to let go of all your expectations. In this dark night, the soul loses all its worldly hopes and asks for help from the divine, without asking for anything in particular. It's like receiving everything that could be. Have you ever thought about how the absolute experience of being one with the divine happens when our soul lets go of all its attachments and expectations, and instead, immerses itself in the vast emptiness that comes before rebirth? In some old spiritual texts, like the mysterious Asclepio, which is also attributed to Hermes Trismegisto, there's a really interesting idea that suggests there's something more beyond just time. It's like our soul is a desert, and only when it's completely empty can it be filled with the wisdom of the Absolute. Hermes talks about this deep connection between the spiritual and the physical, and it's pretty fascinating. Emptiness, renunciation of expectations, and the state full of wisdom, these are the principles of the universal Radhabati philosophy, masterfully synthesized by the wise Adi Shankara. In your teaching of no-duality, you hold this same principle. When you give up desiring what you have no discovered, you have absolutely everything to sanction. Spiritual liberation lies precisely at this supreme moment of understanding, where all expectations die simultaneously. This is what the traditional Taoist laws had. As I've said before, the wise person doesn't have any expectations, so they are never disappointed. They are deeply connected to the Tao, and they always find what they are looking for. It's like a paradox. Giving up the search doesn't mean giving up, it means understanding that the search creates separation from what we already have. This idea is found in the shamanism of many different native cultures, especially the Opi tradition, in the form of a proverb: don't wait for rain. Go out into the world and know that you're carrying a little rain inside you. This will help your spirit find its way. This lovely symbol shows us that the key to spiritual awakening lies in our attitude. After you've had a spiritual awakening, you'll feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. Finally, in modern words, but inspired by ancient traditions, Hindu Krishnamurti expresses the same with admirable clarity in their talks, which are less widespread. When you have expectations, you will live in conflict. When you give them up, you will discover such immense freedom that you will realize that you never lacked anything. In this way, Krishnamurti synthesizes the very essence of the spiritual path, stating that Krishnamurti talks about this beautifully. He says that letting go of our expectations is the only way to find true freedom. He says that it's not just good, but essential, to experience this kind of freedom. To experience it, we have to be willing to enter the desert. The spiritual journey might seem scary at first because we have to let go of the things that make us feel comfortable. But in that silence and emptiness, there's a great deal of wisdom waiting for us. We'll find out that what we really wanted has already been given to us. You know, when we let go of our expectations, we open the door to a world of freedom. It's like stepping into a desert, but it's not just any desert, it's a spiritual one. At first, it might feel a bit scary, like we're giving up the comforts of our illusions. But, in that silence and emptiness, there's a hidden treasure. It's like we're waiting for something to happen, and that's when we start to see things in a new light. This chapter is all about facing our spiritual selves as they really are, with a simple, powerful message that'll make you think deeply about your own journey. So, what would happen if you just took a leap of faith and left everything behind? What if you let go of all your expectations and embraced a life of spiritual simplicity? What if you recognized that the answers you seek are already within you, waiting patiently in the silence of your heart? Today, you have the opportunity to let go of the idea that you have to be a spiritual beggar forever. You can finally realize that what you've been searching for is already waiting for you in the silence center. Absolute Chapter 6. The self that secretly says, I am. That voice that creates in the deepest parts of your being, in the place where the silence that comes before the word exists. A voice whose strength has remained intact since the beginning of time. This voice does not negotiate. It does not know the heads. Its nature is the silent decree, the supreme act of creation that does not require witnesses or external approval. She is the real identity, the self-supreme, who orders in secret and observes how reality folds docilely before his. There's a voice that's been around since the beginning of time. It's strong and never changes. It doesn't talk about itself, and it doesn't need anyone to tell it what to do. It's like the ultimate creator, making things happen without anyone noticing. The old Hermetic texts talk about this secret voice as the key to the universe. One of these texts, called Librube, was written by our Mistress Magisto. It's a pretty important teaching, but it's also really interesting. When the inner voice says its secret word, the universe obeys without question. Some say that this voice is one with the Creator. The ancient Hermetic texts talk about this secret decree as the key to the universe in the little-known manuscript entitled Librube, attributed to our Mistress Magisto. This is a critical but enlightening teaching. When the inner voice emits the decree, the universe obeys without resistance. Some say that this voice is one with the Creator and creation. This text, which is barely mentioned in traditional compilations, underlines that which determines the effectiveness of the decree, precisely the absence of absolute doubt in the heart of which decree. This principle is also endorsed in Gnostic writings of Coptic origin, as the lost manuscript known as the Dialogue of the Salvador. In him Jesus teaches his disciples such creation. This text, barely mentioned in traditional compilations, underline that which determines the effectiveness of the decree. The absence of absolute doubt in the heart of the decree is precisely what makes it work. This principle is also endorsed in Gnostic writings of the Coptic origin, as the lost manuscript known as the Dialogue of the Salvador. In him Jesus teaches his disciples such a deep revelation as a disturbing speech and hidden in your heart without shadow of doubt or fear. The voice that knows and does not hesitate, mountains without moving one finger. This fragment, that has scarcely arrived at popular knowledge, highlights clearly the power that is activated when the conscious mind gives way. The strength is unstoppable certainty. A deep revelation, a disturbing speech and hidden in your heart without shadow of doubt or fear. The voice that knows and does not hesitate. Mountains without moving one finger. This fragment that has scarcely arrived at popular knowledge highlights the power that is activated when the conscious mind gives way. The strength is unstoppable, the certainty unwavering. Interior in the East, the Taoist teacher Chachu exposed this same wisdom in his less disseminated dialogues. The wise decree in silence, your intention is pure and not contaminated by the duality. That is why he governs effortlessly. Because there is no distance between your desire and its manifestation. Fu emphasizes as the total absence of doubt is key to creation. In the East, The Taoist teacher Chuchu shared this same wisdom in his less well-known talks. In The Wise Decree in Silence, he says, "Your intention is pure and not tainted by the duality. That is why he governs effortlessly, because there is no distance between your desire and its manifestation." Fu emphasizes that the total absence of doubt is key to creation. He knows that any hint of uncertainty can weaken the power of intention. From Sufism, the voice of Mystica Persicarid Aldiniter echoes this vision in his secret work entitled The Hidden Wings of the Soul, a text rarely translated into Spanish. Their word is pronounced without conviction. It is vain noise, but the silent decree of a heart that never doubts. Aware that uncertainty can sometimes get in the way of our goals, the mystics teach us that having inner conviction is key. The beautiful doctrine of the inner wolves speaks to this, too. The voice of Mystica Persicarid Aldiniter in his secret work, The Hidden Wings of the Soul, shares this beautiful message. This text is rarely translated into Spanish, but it's worth finding a way to read it. The words may not mean much on the surface, but they resonate deeply. They remind us that when we let our hearts speak, it's a powerful thing. Atta reminds us that asking for things on the surface level or using force isn't the way to go. In the Hindu tradition, especially in the Upanishads, there are less well-known references to the creative power of the voice, the power of the interior when Atman speaks from absolute certainty. Brahmin listens, and the universe manifests itself in obedience. This fragment, lost among the verse's most popular mystics, clarifies that internal certainty is the real secret of the effective decree, because only from that state of absolute conviction reality responds without resistance. This idea reverberates too in the doctrine of the inner wolves, that Brahmin is listening, and the universe is responding in perfect harmony. This little-known verse, found among the most popular mystics, reveals a key to effective decrees. It shows that when you have absolute conviction, reality responds without hesitation. This idea also appears in Christian texts, like the secret book of Juan el Lobo, where it's said that Neramandi, a primitive, never doubted because he was one with the invisible Father. When you speak, all things visible obey and materialize according to your words. This mysterious passage, almost forgotten among the Gnostic codices, reminds us that certainty is an essential attribute of the secret book of Juan el Lobo's interior never doubts because he knows what is one with the invisible Father. When you speak, all visible things obey and materialize according to their word. This mysterious passage, almost forgotten among the Gnostic codices, reaffirms the certainty as an essential attribute of silent decree that creates realities. This silent decree is also described in old American shamanic traditions, specifically in the teachings of the Toltecs, collected by Miguel Ruiz. In little-known sources, who speaks without words from the depth of the spirit, commands the wind and molds the earth because the creation respects the heart that never doubt. The shamanic tradition teaches us that absolute certainty is a power in itself, an irresistible force that does not admit of resistance because it originates from the very essence of being. The unwavering certainty of this voice within is also described with singular beauty in the writings of Mester Ecke, the German mystic whose sermons are less known and express, God does not listen to you when you speak with doubt, but when you speak from your heart. That silent word is already creation performed. Edgar says that only when the soul is completely free from doubt, the spiritual decretor becomes an act of pure creation, because there is no separation between the one who orders and the one who is ordered. An additional nuance about this power is revealed in the deepest Kabbalistic teachings of the Zohar, specifically in the passages less known of the third volume. The decree that comes from the secret of the heart is intact when human arrives at infinity. Because there, doubt never exists. The Kabbalistic vision is all about how we, as humans, have the power to create. It's a beautiful idea that connects us directly to the divine power of infinite creation. This means that when we make a decision, the universe responds right away. It might seem like different traditions are very different, but they are actually all connected to the same thing. They all agree that the key to creativity is to not doubt. Doubting things makes us feel weak and divides our strength. When you understand that the self speaks from the deepest part of your being, you'll see that it's all you need to do. You don't have to look for proof or wait for things to happen right away. This automatically makes the universe respond. When you realize this, you'll see that true creation comes from your heart. It doesn't depend on how strong your desire is. It depends on how pure your message is. And your message comes from a place of peace and safety in your heart. As all these wise teachings show us, true creation is spiritual. It doesn't need to be tested or proven. It doesn't need to be proven by others. It's so simple. It's all about using the powerful, calm energy of someone who knows for sure that reality is simply an obedient reflection of their own internal conviction. And when you close this deep exploration of the power of silent decree, you'll feel a gentle, echoing sentence in your mind, inviting you to consider your own voice and internalize the secret decree you make every day from your heart. I know you're ready to take on the responsibility of your creation, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. In Chapter 7, we talk about letting go of the results we're expecting and embracing the unknown. There's an ancient wisdom that says we need to let go of our wishes, even if it feels hard. Some people might not fully understand this, but there are those who truly get it. When we understand the universal dance of birth and death, we see a power that's beyond our wildest dreams. Attachment is a tricky thing, isn't it? It can make us feel like we're holding on to something that's not real. But when we let go of that, something amazing happens. It's like we open up to a bigger, more powerful version of ourselves. There's a secret here that's really important, and it's all about being less attached to things and more aware of the world around us. There's a whole story about this in a little-known book called The Void Book. It's like a hidden gem, and it's been beautifully explained. So, let's give up our while attachment can keep us stuck in an illusion. Letting go completely can open the door to true power. This secret, beautifully explained in a rare manuscript called The Void Book, shows us that if we let go of our attachment to the results of our actions, we can create something truly amazing. In the fertile land of the Tao, the seeds die underground, and that's how they grow and bear fruit. This idea, which isn't often talked about, perfectly captures the essence of letting go and not worrying about the outcome. It's a powerful truth that can help us tap into our creative energy. There's a beautiful parable about wheat grain in an ancient gospel called the Gospel of Thomas. It says that if a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it will only be a grain. But if it dies, it will bear fruit abundantly. This is a metaphor that was used by Jesus to teach us that if we want to grow and bear fruit in our lives, we have to be willing to die to ourselves. There's a little-known secret parable of wheat grain in an ancient gospel called the Gospel of Thomas. It says that if a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it will remain just a grain. But if it dies, it will bear fruit abundantly. Jesus taught this in a very clear way. He said that only those willing to die symbolically can truly live. The ancient alchemists understood this well. They started a little-known treatise on esoteric alchemy called the Rosarium Philosophorum. It shares this wisdom in a poetic way that's hard to match. The secret of transformation into gold is giving up all expectations. You have to let go and let the secret fire of surrender take over. Dear alchemists, I know this might sound a bit strange, but I want to reassure you that this abandonment is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a powerful expression of surrender and trust. When we fully surrender to the process, we allow the true essence of Sira to shine through. This beautiful principle is beautifully expressed in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, especially in the words of Master Padmanabha, as recorded in a rare manuscript known as the Secret Instructions on the Nature of Mind. The mind that is illuminated lets go of all hope and fear about the results of their actions. At that moment, all actions become perfect because the fruit is given by the Supreme Reality. Padmasambhava talks about a paradox. He says that when you stop expecting anything, you can achieve the supreme desire. The beautiful secret instructions on the nature of the mind are all about letting go of all hope and fear about the results of our actions. When we do this, all actions become perfect because the Supreme Reality, Padmasambhava, takes care of everything. Mystica Sufi in Arabia talks about this in one of its less-known treatises, The Secret of Secrets. The true wise one allows their wishes to die on the altar of detachment because they understand that what is truly surrendered can come back multiplied by divine grace. In Arabia reveals that when we let go of the results, we actually open the door to a sacred. Mystica Sufi in Arabia beautifully captures this truth in one of its less well-known treatises, The Secret of Secrets. The true wise allows their wishes to die on the altar of detachment because it understands that what is truly surrendered can return multiplied by divine grace. In Arabia reveals that surrendering the result is actually a sacred act of spiritual release that ensures the more manifestation. In the Hindu tradition, the Bhagavad Gita beautifully articulates this concept in some of its less verses, particularly when Krishna affirms, who performs the action without getting closer to the fruit of it, releases your soul of apab and receives without searching what never imagined. Double quote. This statement beautifully illustrates that our expectations, if they are not aligned with the natural flow of creative energy in the universe, can hinder our ability to manifest our desires. The Kabbalistic texts, which are less well known, also offer a similar perspective. When we fully surrender our desires to the vast unknown, the universe conspires to bring our dreams to life. This statement beautifully illustrates that letting go of our fixed expectations about the outcome can allow the natural creative energy of the universe to flow more freely. The Kabbalistic text, also known as The Secret, offers a clear reference to this idea when it talks about how when a person surrenders their desires completely to the light, the result is bound to shine. This metaphor teaches us that by emptying our minds and allowing the universe to take the lead, we can tap into the infinite creative power within us. This same idea of surrender is beautifully illustrated in the work of the Persian mystical poet, who wrote, "Let your desire die in your hands into the wind without." The Kabbalistic metaphor teaches us that when we let go of our attachments, we can open the door to the creative force that exists in every part of the universe. This idea is beautifully illustrated in a poem by the Persian mystical poet, who wrote, "Let your desire die in your hands into the wind without tears. No doubts. Heaven will return what you have let go, and will arrive wrapped in milagro." Aes knew that the true essence of creation is to surrender completely, to give up our attachments and let go of our expectations. This idea is also deeply held by the old shamanic cultures of America, as seen in a Mayan secret text known as the Codexes of the Sacrifice. It's amazing that it's lasted this long. It's so humble, and it's like, hey, I'm just here to share what I've got. It's like, born again, and multiplied from the heart of the earth and heaven. It's like they are saying, hey, only when desire dies can we symbolically return to the world. In physics, I'm not sure if you've heard, but there's this thing called force invisible of the universe. When we bring all these different traditions together, it's like, hey, let's just see what happens. The most beautiful thing is when something new comes to life. It's like a miracle, and it's all thanks to the power of universal love. It's not about forcing things to happen, it's about letting go and trusting that the universe will always bring the best things into your life. When you let go and let the universe take the lead, amazing things can happen. It's like you're giving your dreams the space to grow and flourish. And when you trust in this process, you open yourself up to the incredible power of creation. The act of letting go and trusting the universe is truly a beautiful thing. It's like surrendering to the infinite intelligence of the universe, which knows exactly what's best for you. It takes a lot of courage to let go and trust that the divine essence will always respond in ways you never imagined. The most transformative part of this teaching is that when you authentically manifest your desires, it's like you're tapping into a higher power that knows exactly what's best for you. It's an incredible act of trust in the universe. It's like putting your heart and soul into something, knowing that the universe will always provide in ways you never imagined. The most amazing thing about this teaching is that true manifestation happens when we let go of our human desires. When we surrender to the universe, it's like we're letting the conscious creator take the lead. It's about fully embracing the unknown, trusting that the universe will always do the right thing. In this moment of pure silence, we become one with the universe. When human desire dies in open hands, it reveals something truly beautiful. The highest and most powerful act of the conscious creator is precisely this radical abandonment, this total delivery to the unknown, this absolute trust that the universe will express exactly what should be. In this climax, where they begin to blur, there's a sentence in mind and a phrase that the reader will carry with them. I get as a seed planted in the depth of their being, waiting patiently for its germination. Silent, the universe delivers its most profound miracles only to those who no longer wait for anything because they have understood that in the death of all desire lies the absolute birth of all manifestation. The wise W acts without doing, and the cosmos obeys. There's an old truth in forgotten teachings that says the most powerful thing is not doing, but letting things be. This subtle idea is really important in the hidden pages of Taoism, where the idea that action without action is a key concept in the philosophy of Taikai. It's fascinating how this principle can be misunderstood by most people. To truly understand it, you have to go beyond logic and conventional thinking. The wise ancestral drives, as declared by the ancient Taoist master, Qin Lao, exemplify this beautifully. They say, the wise acts without doing and teaches without saying a word. A thousand things emerge without him controlling them, and they bloom precisely because he doesn't control them. This appointment is faithfully translated from the classic Chinese text, and it contains a wisdom that is both deep and disconcerting. Control is actually an interruption of universal harmony. The cosmos responds and obeys when there is no forced intention, when the mind retires and allows everything to move by itself. This idea is also expressed in a Taoist manuscript that is little disseminated and entitled The Dialogues of the Emptiness. It contains a revealing phrase, when a wise person doesn't do anything, it's like a calm, peaceful lake. This lake attracts the stars, and they want to reflect on its surface. Double quote. This beautiful metaphor clearly illustrates that when the human mind ceases to worry and stop trying, universal forces are reflected naturally in it, and the deepest wishes manifest without resistance, without effort. The same principle of deep inner stillness was known by the Zen teachers, who described the no-action of the sage with elegance, poetry, and philosophical forcefulness in one of the least-known stories. The wise ones say that when you let go of trying to control everything, you can achieve true spiritual efficiency. They say that when you stop acting and allow the universe to act through you, you can achieve this. This idea is beautifully explained in a secret manuscript called The Silent Transmission. In the beautiful tradition of Hinduism, there's this idea of the vacuum primordial, which is like the starting point for everything. And in some really esoteric texts, like the Niskama or the action without a wish in the Isor Panisat, there's this lovely idea that when you act without desiring the outcome, it's not you who's doing the action, but this force of the universe that's acting through you. This passage is all about how true spiritual realization happens when you let go of the need to act and allow the universe to act through you. It suggests a deep confidence that actions arise and are completed in a natural way, without the need for intervention or effort. Milarepa, a wise Tibetan monk, emphasized this teaching when he said, in absolute stillness, all movement becomes perfect. Who is looking for does not find, who stops searching is found by what? Milarepa's words beautifully express the idea that the hey, I just wanted to let you know that action is really the best form of action. It's like this awesome thing that lets the wisdom of the universe shine through freely, without any resistance. You can find this idea in different traditions, too, like in the Zoroastrian tradition. There's a part in one of their texts that says, the wise person who doesn't act lets the divine force do what's needed. It's okay to not do anything. That's how things end up happening the way they are supposed to. This is what they call a Kabbalistic approach. It's all about working together and going with the flow of the universe. The Sufi tradition, with teachers like Abu Yazid al-Bistami, totally gets this. Al-Bistami wrote about it in a text called The Heart Mirror, and it's pretty cool. When we act with a strong desire to do something, we might be getting in the way of the divine will. But when we sit back and let God take the lead, we're allowing him to guide us. Double quote. This passage reminds us that sometimes the best action is to simply sit back and let things unfold. It's about recognizing and respecting the infinite intelligence of the cosmos, even in our thoughts. Even in the Western philosophical tradition, we find similar ideas. The Stoic philosopher Musonio Rufo, who is mentioned in one of your recently recovered speeches, said something similar. True virtue does not consist of doing many things, but to allow the right things to become alone. Musonio clearly saw that wisdom consists of not hindering the order natural, but to allow this order to flow with perfect harmony. In shamanic cultures of America, they've also kept this wisdom a secret. A song of the shamans The Level declares, a wise person's path is like a shadow, leaving a gentle imprint on the world. Your desires are fulfilled because you allow life to flow freely, without forcing anything. This idea reminds us that true strength doesn't come from forcing our will on others, but from within, gently supporting the natural flow of the world. This is at the heart of the WWE's central teaching, or non. The wise man walks on earth like a shadow, and your wishes are fulfilled because he doesn't impose his presence, but allows everything to flow freely. This idea shows that true power doesn't come from forcing or control, but from deep capacity and silent not interfering with the natural energies of the world. In essence, the central teaching of the we or non-action is that the authentic realization happens when we let go of fighting to control and manipulate reality. We have a deep conviction that the universe obeys precisely when obedience isn't required. The perfect action isn't the result of the will, but of harmony, silence, and totality with the flow of life. So, the wise person who understands and lives the WI reaches a supreme state of fluidity, in which each action arises spontaneously and perfectly in its. Let's talk about the tension between our inner expectations and the pushback we sometimes feel. When we can let go of those inner blocks, we become a channel for the infinite intelligence of the universe. This is a really powerful moment of understanding, and it's like a secret melody that resonates in our souls and guides us towards something greater. The highest realization is this: the cosmos is at its most beautiful when it is in harmony with the wise. The wise person has completely renounced all will to act because they understand deeply that in absolute stillness resides the action. Supreme Chapter 9, The Shadow of Desire as Lack disguises himself as spirituality. This subtle trap exists in the human soul. It is almost imperceptible and frequently adopts the costume of the spiritual search. This costume is so skilled that even the most compromised pilgrims of the spirit fall into it. Their seduction is like a shadow of desire, wrapped up in purity. It's like that emptiness you felt, covered up by religious and mystical ideas, making it hard to find true fulfillment. This emptiness, instead of leading to a deeper connection with the divine, can feel like a prison, holding you back from recognizing your true self. In Persian mysticism, the great poet and wise Aziz subtly warned against this trap, speaking from the heart in a poem that's not as well known. Beginnings are so beautiful, aren't they? They're like doorways to new adventures, and they are often created by saints. It's true that beautiful words can sometimes make us feel like we're on the path to heaven, but sometimes it feels like our souls are trembling because they need something. Az reveals to us with such beauty and sharpness how the desire that's been held back can easily take on spiritual forms, pretending to be searchlighting when really it's just desperately trying to fill a void that's even deeper than before. If you're interested in learning more, you can find an enlightening teaching on the true essence of desire in an old manuscript called the Gospel of Thomas. When you know yourself, you will be. My dear friend, you already know that you are children of the Father living. But if you don't know, you will dwell in poverty. You will be poor in spirit. It's important to understand that spiritual poverty does not consist of an absence of external possessions. Rather, it is the internal inability to recognize the true identity of the divine. It's the ignorance of your own inner fullness that generates the illusion of spiritual need. I've been searching for something for a long time, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to find it. The Hermetic tradition adds depth to this vision when Hermes, in the rarely cited treaty entitled The Golden Aurora, says, the hidden desire manifests itself under the appearance of virtue and devotion. Who ignores its own fullness spiritual becomes a slave eternal of his search. Hermes points directly towards the root of the problem. The shadow of the wish, disguised as spirituality, is. In reality, not knowing something doesn't mean you're missing out on something. It just means you don't know yet. In ancient India, they had this idea in the Vedanta tradition, in a text called the Idioma. There, the sage says, it's great when we feel connected to the world around us. But if we feel separated, it can feel like we're being consumed by the illusion of separation. Here, Buddhist kindly explains that the authentic spiritual journey starts with the realization that we're already connected to the divine, not to avoid. Authentic spirituality isn't based on a feeling of lack because that lack itself goes against the idea that the divine is present and active, even in the less well-known Gospels. Even Christians who don't study as much, like hypocrites in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, have this hidden wisdom. They're like people who are eager to receive the banquet, but they are also confident that it's there for them. If you're feeling hungry, you're not going to find satisfaction in food. But if you're looking for a sense of fullness, you'll see the face of God in everything. It's important to be aware that when we feel lack, it can create a false sense of separation. We might move away from what we believe, but that's not the whole story. Even teachers then have noticed this spiritualized shadow of desire. There's a traditional Japanese story in the texts of the teacher Dogen's less cited work, Fukanzaji, that tells about a monk who meditated with fervor for years, but that you might be feeling a bit frustrated when talking to your teacher. They might say, you think that the light is in front of you, but really, you're always watching yourself. If you stop looking for spiritual answers, you'll realize that you've always been here. It's important to understand that our thirst for spiritual answers is an illusion. This trap can show up in different spiritual practices, too, like when people deny their desires. The wise Sufi Arabi in his book The Revelations, which was written in Mecca, kindly warns us that those who strongly deny their desires are likely to find themselves feeling more and more overwhelmed. The true path to resignation is to love the world deeply, knowing that everyone is a part of God's loving plan. This teaching reminds us that any resignation based on the idea of lack only serves to perpetuate it in the shadows of the unconscious, creating chains that can feel even more limiting. Similarly, the lesser-known Tibetan teacher Lancha cautions in his text the precious verses of the "If you're on a spiritual journey, this is a great place to start. You're born from the void, and you'll find more emptiness along the way. But if you start from a place of recognizing the essential fullness, every step will be a celebration." Longchenpa says it's really important to start with the right foundation. When you start from an authentic, internal spirituality, you don't deny or suppress anything. Instead, you fully embrace the totality of being in a state of abundance. In Western thought, this is mostly unknown. The German philosopher Jacob Boehme wrote about this in his work La Aurora Nascent. Many men chase God with so much passion, but they are really just chasing their own hunger. God isn't found by trying to satisfy something outside ourselves. Instead, we find rest and fulfillment within ourselves. As Boehme beautifully says, God isn't something to be achieved, it's a reality that shows up in each moment with acceptance. These different ideas and experiences, both wise and mystical, throughout history, we've seen that the search for spiritual fulfillment can sometimes feel like a journey with a hidden challenge. It's as if we're searching for ourselves, but we're not quite there yet. The spiritual seeker is like a beggar, always looking outside of themselves for something they think they lack. They are focused on the future or on external validation, and they are always putting off true spiritual connection. But it's important to understand that our spiritual yearning can sometimes mask a deeper sense of self-doubt, making it difficult to recognize our true self as already complete and perfect in its essence. The spiritual seeker is forever searching, projecting a sense of lack outward, yearning for a future state or divine grace, and continually postponing true spirituality. However, it's essential to recognize that this yearning doesn't stem from a place of true lack. Instead, it originates from a deep sense of certainty and an unshakable connection to the divine source. Any attempt to achieve something from the shadow of desire merely shifts our focus from what is truly known. The divine essence is never possessed from a place of lack, but rather recognized in its fullness and absolute nature. This essential paradox is beautifully captured by the El Search Camino Sabio when it says, "When you give up the need for true spirituality is something that comes up all on its own. The shadow goes away, and the lack, which we've been calling virtue, is shown to be just that, not something special." So, the soul finds out, with joy and ease, that there's nothing to search for because everything you need is right here, in the quiet fullness of being. And it's in this simple realization, this radical realization, that the true face of the sacred is finally shown. What was always complete, abundant, and infinite is right here, waiting for you to see it and reach it. The fullness of the soul. Spiritual desire is just a shadow. Not anymore. End of chapter 10. The archetype of the magician is the cause, without attempt to effect on the most hidden traditions. Alchemics describe the magician not as an external elements manipulator, but as an inner teacher who knows deeply the laws that govern so much the visible as the invisible. This teacher is able to provoke deep changes in their reality without generating. My dear friend, I want to encourage you to let go of the fruit of your ancestral wizard power. It's time to embrace the true power of being a creator of miracles without being emotionally tied to the results. Imagine being in a place of detachment, watching your will unfold in the world without being caught up in the web of your own creations. In the ancient manuscript known as the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermestis Megisto beautifully captures this idea when she says, "My dear, don't get yourself all mixed up. The real power lies not in controlling what happens, but in being the cause without ever being identified with it." This old wisdom highlights a very important part of the inner wizard's work. Creative magic starts from a state of consciousness that's so pure and free that nothing can touch it. My dear, don't you get it? True power doesn't come from controlling things. It's about being the cause without being identified with it. This old wisdom points to a really important part of the creative process. When you're a magician, you start with a consciousness that's so pure and free that it can't be affected by the desire to control specific results. The magician understands that if they get attached to the results, it limits their power and creativity. It traps them in a cycle of constant need, which changes their true nature. This idea also shows up in the famous Taoist text, the Lizzie, where a wise man is described as someone who, the magician knows that if they get too attached to the results of their work, they run the risk of limiting their own power and creativity. This can trap them in a cycle of perpetual need, causing them to stray from their true nature, which is limitless. This idea also finds expression in the rarely cited Taoist text, the Lizzie Treaty. In it, a wise man is described as moving mountains not with physical strength, but with the subtlety of his intention. The text reminds us that when we truly understand the Tao, we act without acting and work without intention. The power of this approach is such that the mountains are displaced effortlessly and the seas are calmed by the passage of his presence. The message of the wise LCI emphasizes the wise LCI reminds us that the power of the magician's essence lies in our ability to let things happen naturally, without claiming to be the sole creator. It's not about physical strength, but about subtlety of intention. When we truly understand the Tao, we act without acting and work without intention. The mountains move effortlessly, and the seas calm to the passage of his presence. The message of the wise LCI not only emphasizes the importance of no we action, but also reveals how the magician's essence resides precisely in your ability to let the effects happen naturally, without claiming to be the sole creator. In the esoteric texts of the Kabbalah, Jewish specifically, in the Zohar, there's a teaching on the creative power of God's name. He says, when the wise one invokes the name, they do so without expectation or desire. Your invocation is like a seed, launched into the free wind of care to germinate, trusting fully in the fertility of the universe. This deep metaphor in Kabbalah points out that true magic does not arise from emotional attachment to result, but from absolute trust in the creative nature of being. The magician in when you invoke the name, it's not about expecting something in return. It's like sending a loving message to the universe, letting it flow with the free wind of care, trusting in the universe's bounty. This deep metaphor from Kabbalah beautifully shows us that true magic doesn't come from being attached to results. It comes from having absolute trust in the creative nature of being. The magician in essence is the one who releases the seed of intention without worrying too much about the outcome. They trust the infinite intelligence present in all things. Similarly, the Grand Master Sufi Rumi wrote in his writings, which aren't as well known, I know like the wind that caresses without staying, like the river that flows without stopping, like the fire that illuminates without ordering what consumes. These poetic pieces beautifully capture the essence of the magician. His power does not lie in possessing or controlling, but in flowing naturally with movement, spontaneous, of existence itself. The attachment to the result is seen by Rumi as a bond that darkens the true nature of creative power, transforming it into a source of suffering and limitation. Even in traditions apparently away from these teachings, like Stoic philosophy. From the wise Epictetus, we find echoes of this same teaching. Absolute freedom comes from distinguishing clearly between what is in your power and what is not. Your power lies only in your action, never in him. Result. Here, Epictetus explains that the wise person who truly has power is like a magician because they never get caught up in what other people think. They don't worry about what they do in the world. They act from a place of inner peace and purity, not from a place of needing to be recognized or rewarded. Epictetus's teachings are very similar to Hindu spirituality. In one of the less cited texts but deepest of Vedanta, the Sabya Gaudapada mentions in his term Karita, the wise managed is the one whose action is diluted in the Brahmin, just like the smoke disappears in the air without leaving a trace or desire for recognition. Double quote. Gaudapada says that the wise person is the one who understands that everything happens in the great, impersonal field of consciousness, and there's no need to claim credit or personal merit. The authentic magician is like a spiritual and psychological example of huge power. A transformer is the model of being human, fully aware that. Gaudapada reminds us that the inner wizard is the one who understands that all effects occur within the great impersonal field of consciousness, absolute, without needing to claim property or personal merit. The authentic magician is therefore a spiritual and psychological archetype of huge power. A huge power transformer is the model of being human fully aware that lives from an absolute perspective. Freedom interior is the cause that does not need recognition. It is the pure action that flows from the divine essence without being trapped in the effect that causes. The magician is one who knows perfectly that opening to the effect destroys your true power. All action made from the need for a specific result becomes. From an absolute perspective, freedom is found within. It's a simple and pure action that flows from the divine essence, free from the traps of desire and expectation. A magician knows that opening to the effect can diminish one's true power. All actions driven by a need for a specific result can become prisons. The only way to truly act with freedom is to let go of all expectation for outcomes. This idea is beautifully explained by the Buddhist Narajuna in his little-known work, Mulamaya. He says that pure action is the kind that is free from egoic intentions, like how the ray del sol illuminates the earth without effort. Nagarjuna's words are so clear and comforting. He says that the most powerful creative act is magic, and it arises spontaneously from the nucleus of being. He says that it is not about desire or expectation, but about acting from fullness, absolute, ever from lack, disguised as intention. He says that the virtuous wisdom of the magician archetype is therefore radically simple in its depth. You know, it's interesting how sometimes when we act without worrying about the outcome, we actually end up reaching a really high level of creativity. It's almost like the universe is saying, "Hey, I see you, and I understand that you're trying to do your best." And in response, we feel this incredible sense of connection and support. It's almost like a little miracle, right? But really, it's just the universe showing us the power of pure intention and the joy of giving without expecting anything in return. The true magician, the one who's really in control, understands that the most powerful magic lies in letting go of all the things we want to achieve. It's like discovering that being the cause without any attachment to the outcome is the real magic. The maximum realization spiritually is the embodiment of pure freedom, where you can act from a place of joy and fulfillment. It's like having the power to know that every experience is a beautiful moment in the grand tapestry of life. In this spirit, the magician becomes a symbol of mystery, where cause and effect dance in harmony. It's a state of being where you're both the cause and the effect, flowing seamlessly in the center of yourself. Manifestation Chapter 11 The alchemy of Non The ancient art of alchemy is so misunderstood, isn't it? People see it as a simple way to turn base metals into gold, but there's so much more to it. It's a way to transform yourself, your soul, and your life. It's a journey of deep spiritual change, and it's so personal and mysterious. Alchemy shows us how to shed our darkest layers and let our soul shine brightly. It's about using a kind and subtle art to bring out the best in ourselves. I totally get it. Supreme transmutation is the way to go. You can achieve it through control or fight, but it's a process that's kind of the opposite of total inactivity. The awesome Taoist teacher Zhuangzi expressed this beautifully when he said, "The fish forgets the river when it is fully submerged. He is the wise who transforms everything. What touches without doing absolutely nothing?" You might be surprised to hear this, but this phrase is actually a perfect summary of the essential principle of alchemy. No effort doesn't mean passivity or indifference. It's actually a state of deep integration with the current state of existence. According to Fuani, the internal alchemist is someone who allows change to occur spontaneously, renouncing all conscious attempts to alter it. This truth is revealed in the mysterious Egyptian text known as the Book of All, attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus. In terms of deep symbolism, the truth is that if you want to transform a stone, you shouldn't force the fire. Instead, you should go with it until the stone itself reveals its hidden gold. This hermetic wisdom tells us that true transformation occurs from within, not from an act of external aggression. Rather, it occurs through an internal, deep resonance that the external world naturally adapts to. A spiritual alchemist does not manipulate circumstances, rather, it becomes the very essence of change. This principle resonates in the old Hindu tradition, especially in the teachings of the sage Esla Ramana Maris, who said with precision and admirable brevity, "When the mind stops intervening, ultimate reality naturally arises." In this passage, Marcy beautifully captures the essence of the no-effort alchemical philosophy. He explains that true transformation doesn't come from fighting or trying to improve things with the force of will. Instead, it occurs when our constant efforts stop and reality reveals itself naturally, without any effort from us. This idea is beautifully explained in the secret doctrines of Buddhism, particularly in the text known as the Tibetan Book of the Great Awakening. It's a message that resonates deeply. When we let go of our attempts to control or change things, something incredible can happen. It's clear that the intervention constant is the fundamental error. It's just the ego in disguise, pretending to be spirituality. So, true alchemy happens when the search engine stops searching and allows itself to be found by the supreme truth. That truth was never away, it was just hidden by our hard work to reach it. In the mystical Christian tradition, Master Eckhart adds another layer to this teaching when he says, the soul must be detached from everything, even God's desire, because only then can God enter fully. In these words, Miraka reveals a key alchemical secret: any kind of effort or desire, even the seemingly spiritual, can block the transformation of deep God, the supreme reality. You don't have to constantly intervene to achieve this transformation, it reveals itself spontaneously when the soul is empty of all expectation and effort, consciously. In these words, Miraka shares a beautiful secret: any effort or desire we put into something can block the transformation of deep God, the supreme reality. But, and this is the key, this transformation happens naturally, when the soul is empty of all expectation and effort, consciously. The ancient Gnosticism says that true gnosis is supreme knowledge. You can only obtain it when all intellectual search or speculative efforts are put aside. In the Gospel, Jesus says with enigmatic clarity, "Who seeks should not stop looking until I find, and when in story will marvel, and when they will reign over the whole and will go into rest." At first, you might think this is a bit confusing, but it's really beautiful. The search for true wisdom, according to this idea, is like a journey. And when you finally arrive at the end of that journey, you find rest in something much bigger than yourself. It may seem a bit confusing at first, but the text suggests that the authentic search is only complete when we find rest in the absolute, perfect intervention moment, where supreme knowledge can truly be revealed. This idea also resonates with philosophy. Zenjien's teacher wrote in his well-known Zhen's treatise that the realization of the absolute only comes when the practitioner stops practicing. Then, without any effort, the universe returns with his DNG. Hart beautifully captures the central paradox of the transformation, spiritual. No matter how much initial effort there is on the way, true supreme alchemy always occurs when the practitioner finally releases all effort and allows the essential reality to manifest itself without intervention. Some of the alchemical science of no effort isn't just in philosophical texts or sacred writings. You can also find it in poetic metaphors that are closer to our daily lives. A Persian mystical poet described it beautifully: if you want to see the rose flowing, don't just laugh and let her do her thing. Here, the poet uses clear and accessible language to explain that deep transformation, like the flowering of a flower, never occurs through constant intervention or external pressure. Rather, it is a delicate organic process that occurs naturally when they are created. The appropriate conditions must be in place, and then you can leave them in the hands of natural existence. The alchemy of no effort can be a really helpful philosophy when it comes to living a more free and easy life. It's all about letting go of the need to control everything and the tension that comes with it. When you allow things to be simply, you open up a world of hidden power. The most important thing to remember is that transformation happens when you stop trying to control everything and become a quiet observer. Let the infinite intelligence of the universe work its magic, just like it did before. You can create harmony even from the most chaotic situations. The best spiritual realizations don't come from trying too hard, but from letting go and being open to surrender. I'm so glad you're on board with the natural flow of existence. Isn't it great to fully trust in the inherent wisdom that holds all the cosmos, like Senala or Senel Tortuchin? The wise person transforms the world without intervening. Never here is the very essence of the supreme spiritual alchemy allow. The universe itself does the job, without that he interferes in the process and absolute silence. This is not the wise alchemical intervention. Discover the greatest of the secrets. The transformation that always was wanted when giving up intervention has allowed that the eternal flows freely through him. It's so wonderful to realize that the divine essence we're all born with is always there, waiting for us to discover it, despite the illusion of effort. The alchemy of no effort shows us that transformation doesn't require any single action. When we fully embrace the mystery, we find that the pure power and the oldest secret are there for us. The soul that has fully understood alchemy will be delighted to know that it's silent of no effort. Chapter 12, The Temple of the Hour, the present eternal as the only entrance door. There is an invisible temple lost in the mists of time that no human hand built and whose columns were never carved in stone. This temple is the moment, the eternal now that points sacred where every duality fades and time reveals its true, illusory nature. The wise men of all eras, from Hindus, mystics to Gnostics, have pointed out this temple as the only legitimate door towards the unshadowable mystery of being. It's true that crossing this invisible entry is tricky. You have to be willing to let go of your ego and your future plans. In the Hindu tradition, especially in the Upanishads, there's this idea that what we can't see or touch or understand is what makes life so special. It's like the moment really exists, and it's eternal and unbreakable. Present, this ancestral teaching, which is not often explored in its implications. Its deeper actions point to the fact that a pure conscience exists only in the now. Any attempt to find the truth in the present is a bit of an illusion, like a mirage that separates the divine essence search engine that lies in the very center of the moment, in the silent pages of Disturbakrata, an old Indian text that is rarely cited. We find a clear statement, honey, you're not. You're not yesterday or tomorrow, or even today. You're the eternal moment that escapes time, same. This direct statement, almost brutal in its clarity, shakes the mind of the one who seeks a sure identity in time. The temple of the hour therefore demands a total spiritual nudity, a radical abandonment of the very idea of identity anchored in memory and expectations. Who wants to cross their threshold must give up the idea of identity anchored in memory and expectations. This direct statement is almost brutal in its clarity, shaking the mind of the seeker who, over time, seeks a sure identity. The temple of the hour, therefore, demands a total spiritual nudity, a radical abandonment of the very idea of identity anchored in memory and expectations. Who wants to cross their threshold must give up the idea of time and discover their true identity as awareness, pure and without history or future. This same concept appears reflected, albeit with another symbolism, in the lost Gnostic Gospels of the Library of Nanamadi and the Gospel of Philippi. Jesus proclaimed with a disturbing subtlety, "Time is a lie. Who knows eternity will know its true face." These words, in their simplicity, are like a gentle whisper, inviting us to explore the depths of our being. They remind us that the true temple of the eternal present is a revelation that brings an end to the search for Jesus Christ's salvation. It's not something that happens after death or in the distant future, but rather a moment of awakening, a conscious recognition of the present as the only reality. The ancient Taoist sages made this invisible temple the axis of their wisdom. In a little-known fragment of the June attributed to the Oz, it says, "Yes, you are looking for the Tao out of now? Ever. You will find no path to drive to the Tao because the Tao is eternally always invisible. Accessible only for those who look far away." Double quote. Lao's teaching reveals that the Lhasa temple doesn't need any external pilgrimages or long years of searching. Spiritual is always available, but it remains hidden behind the restlessness of the mind that always seeks. It was always waiting for something beyond the present, in a surprisingly linear way. A similar message was written by Master Sufi Arabi in his monumental Obrafu Salicum. The divine presence is only in the present, not in the past or the future. Who captures this secret will breathe eternity. In Arabia, there's a special way of thinking about the wisdom of the time that really speaks to us. It's all about breathing. Each time we inhale and exhale, we're right in the moment. The wise Master Sufi says that this conscious breathing is like a key that opens the door to a hidden temple, a temple of the present and eternal. But here's the catch, it's not as easy as just walking through the door. That's where the Buddha's teachers N. Huan Po steps in. In their talks on the mind transmission, they beautifully explain how we can find this wisdom within ourselves. No, my friend. There's nothing more important than embracing the present moment with an open heart. When we're truly present, we're not bound by our desires or our plans. In fact, the desire to be in the moment is what keeps us from fully enjoying it. It's like we're resisting the present, but in a good way. When we let go of our plans and our worries, we find that we're already in the temple of the present. It's like we're already home. The present is symbolized by the philosopher's stone, which is a pretty cool stone. Its power lies in its radical simplicity. The present instant is the hidden stone that holds it without transmute effort. The alchemist reveals that the supreme spiritual transformation does not depend on complicated rituals. The present is symbolized by the philosopher's stone, which has the power of radical simplicity. The present instant is the hidden stone that holds it without effort. The alchemist reveals that the supreme spiritual transformation does not depend on complicated rituals or complex formulas, but rather on the simple act of presence, absolute. The entrance to the temple of the hour is the internal philosopher's stone, the jewel that instantly transforms the ordinary consciousness into a divine one. We also find echoes of this teaching in Persian mystical poetry, as Omar Khayyam wrote, "In this instant, you can find all eternity. Savor the moment, for it came from the infinite." The mystical wine that speaks is plena immersion. At the current moment, the only place where the spirit finds freedom is absolute. This spiritual wine does not embody, but it awakens, revealing the eternal temple of the hour as the only space sacred wisdom. Perrine is in harmony with the and I want to emphasize that the present moment is the only real door to the divine and transcendence. This truth can only be recognized when we let go of the illusion of linear time and fully embrace the moment. To enter the temple of the hour means letting go of our past identities and embracing the present. Perrine is in perfect harmony with and it's important to keep in mind that the present moment is our gateway to the divine, to transcendence, in its totality. But to fully embrace this truth, we need to let go of the illusion of linear time. When we step into the temple of the hour, it's like we're shedding our identities, our anchors to the past, and letting go of the expectations we have for the future. It's like we're finally understanding that this invisible temple we're talking about isn't a destination we can reach. Instead, it's a journey of becoming, of fully embodying the eternity of the present moment. And in that process, we realize that there's nowhere else to go, no other moment to arrive at but this eternal now, this infinity and full, that has always been waiting for us with open arms. Our arrival here is full of mystery, but we're here to reveal the deepest secret, that door was never closed, but we let ourselves in. The entrance to the temple of the hour is a total surrender to the present reality, and this surrender is nothing other than conscious eternity observing itself, always in a single. It's like this big, silent presence that's always been there, waiting for us to show up. The secret is that the door was never closed, it was just us who let ourselves in. The entrance to the temple of the hour is all about fully embracing the present moment. And this embrace is like a conscious eternity, looking at itself, always, in a single moment. And when we realize this, everything stops, everything is revealed, and everything is illuminated. Chapter 13, The Silent Double, the Unfolding of Time, and the Pact with the Future deep in the human soul. In the absolute attitude of the night, there's a figure that's watching us in silence from the other side of the mirror of time. In different cultures and beliefs, this presence is known by many names, but its essence remains the same, the double silent. It's like a being that resides at the edge of the present and the future, a mysterious and enigmatic presence that travels through the paths of time, revealing what hasn't happened yet, but is already part of the eternal moment. To truly understand the mystery of the double silent, we have to start with the subtle layers of time. The physicist Jean-Pierre Garnier called this phenomenon unfolding time, and he suggested that each of us has a quantum self that can travel through realities and explore potential futures while we sleep or meditate deeply. This idea might seem modern, but it's actually very old. It's important to understand that the concept of a double silent is a bit mysterious. In the deeper layers of time, physicist Jean-Pierre Garnier suggested that each of us has a quantum self that can travel through different realities and explore potential futures while we're asleep or in deep meditative states. This idea might seem a bit modern, but it actually has deep roots in ancient texts like the Egyptian papyri. There, it talks about an invisible person who visits the future in dreams to bring messages and warnings about what's to come. In an old manuscript called El Liber Tempus, attributed to a disciple of Hermes Trismegisto, it says, "Every human being has two bodies. One is visible and temporary, while the other is invisible and eternal. This second body travels to the future in search of answers that the first can never know." This statement clarifies the mystical sense of the silent double, who, in the stillness of consciousness, advances and draws invisible pacts for future conversions of ourselves. This phenomenon was, every one of us has two bodies. One is visible and temporary, while the other is invisible and eternal. This second body travels to the future in search of answers that the first can never know. This statement clarifies the mystical sense of the silent double, who, in the stillness of consciousness, advances and draws invisible pacts and future conversions of ourselves. Carl Gustav Jung also intuited this phenomenon when he talked about the synchronicity concept, defining it as the significant coincidence of events that are connected not by a common causality, but for a more subtle and eternal link. Although Jung mentioned the double directly, his theory opened the door to recognition that something in our consciousness operates outside the limits of time, temporary, and silent. Carl Gustav Jung also had some interesting things to say about synchronicity, defining it as the significant coincidence of events that are connected not by a common causality, but for a more subtle, invisible, and eternal link. Jung mentioned that his theory opens the door to the recognition that something in our consciousness operates outside the limits of a temporary, silent day that moves threads that the rational mind fails to understand. The Toltec teachers in the tradition transmitted by Carlos Castaneda in his less cited book Enso also referred to the double with disturbing words and accurate language. They said that your double is not an illusion or a ghost, but rather your ally in the task of advancing in time to find answers before. The Toltec teachers, as shared by Carlos Castaneda in his less cited book Enso, have a really beautiful way of talking about this. They say that your double is not just an illusion or a ghost, but someone who is actually your ally. They help you move forward in time to find answers to your questions. The ancient Toltecs had this amazing ability to communicate with their doubles. They saw them as their destiny, and they could shape the future with clarity, precision, and serenity. There's even a forgotten manuscript of mystical Sufism that talks about this secret connection with your double. It says that when you sleep, your soul leaves your body and visits the garden of tomorrow. Fragrances and warnings for the day next. The pact with the future is expressed in poetic form, insinuating constant but subtle communication between the present and the double self that tirelessly explore realities to come. To approach this reality consciously, it's essential to silence the internal noise, letting go of past projections and anxieties of the future. In this beautiful moment, we bring fragrances and warnings for the day. Next, we express a special pact with our future in poetic form, suggesting a constant but subtle communication between the present and our double self. Our double self is always exploring realities that are yet to come, and it's essential to approach this reality consciously. To do so, we need to silence our internal noise, let go of past projections, and face our future with confidence. In this perfect silence, we communicate with our double, whose existence, although intangible, is undeniable. When they start appearing, coincidences so precise that they challenge all rational logic arise. These coincidences are but the result of the secret pact that we have with that quantum self in dreams. Our double, silent, whose mission is to subtly guide us towards the deepest realization. In the beautiful and mysterious world of dreams, we sometimes experience moments of pure stillness, where words seem to vanish and thoughts quietly drift. It's as if we're in a secret conversation with a part of ourselves, a silent companion that guides us towards the deepest insights of our being. This idea of a silent double has been beautifully explored in ancient Tibetan Buddhist texts, like the Bardo Total Sutra Minor, which tells us that dreams are a way for our future selves to reach us, gently guiding us on our life's journey. By opening our hearts and minds to this teaching, we can find the certainty that we are walking on a path that is already illuminated. This wonderful teaching connects the rich wisdom of Eastern thought with the modern scientific understanding of intuition, creating a beautiful harmony between our inner self and the world around us. In the beautiful Tibetan Buddhist texts, there's a lovely idea that your future self comes to visit you in your dreams to show you the path that's already been laid out for you. If you learn to listen to this teaching, you'll feel like you're walking along a path that you already know. This teaching beautifully connects Eastern wisdom with modern science. Time is like this universal knowledge of double. It expresses itself in different symbols according to culture, but its essence is the same. In the Gospel of Thomas, a fragment that isn't often cited, Jesus says, "When the two parts are made, when you recognize the other who lives inside you and allow him to guide your life, the kingdom will be here." This phrase reveals the beautiful spiritual power that comes from fully accepting the dual existence and allowing your silent task to open the door to a full life, accurate and harmonious. However, it's important to understand that this relationship isn't about one person taking responsibility for another's destiny. Instead, it's a conscious agreement between the present and future minds, a deep recognition that our being is much more extensive than our limited awareness. When we establish a relationship, we need to be aware of this. This double silent human being is so wise. Not only does he anticipate solutions to everyday problems, but he also accesses deep wisdom that can illuminate the hidden aspects of existence. The Paracelsus alchemist, in his writings, also points out something beautiful. In the silent hours of the night, your being invisible travels to the future, bringing the seeds that will have fruiting tomorrow. Learn to recognize these seeds, and you will successfully cultivate the garden of your destination. In this way, For Self so delivers. I'm so excited to share another essential key to understanding this secret pact with the future. Every vision, sleep, or intuition received from double is a seed that must be nurtured with care. It represents a deep and close alliance over time. By coming to accept double, we're gently surrendering to the silent embrace of our higher self. I knew the idea that we're not alone in the flow of time. Our being is multidimensional, living simultaneously in different temporary levels and consciousness. This multidimensionality makes us free and deeply wise. Free. When we finally acknowledge the presence of this double silence and consciously make a connection with it, we find that we no longer have to fear the future. We realize that the present moment is the result of an earlier agreement, a silent pact made in the deepest part of ourselves. It's there, in that quiet certainty and deep place, where we truly feel free to know that the future isn't uncertainty but a precise and silent promise that we have made to ourselves from the very beginning. Sealing Chapter 14, The Self That Suffers Itself. Self-examination is the key to the miraculous. In the quiet, calm darkness before dawn, when the stars slowly disappear into the vast silence of the sky, the soul can discover the most profound truth. The most mysterious and paradoxical aspect of all external things is necessary to complete what is already whole in itself. This revelation, present in the more Vedic texts of ancient times and the forgotten words of medieval mystics, reminds us of the self. The nature of being is so amazing. Just being is enough to create this incredible existence. It's hard for the mind to understand this because we're used to always looking for more. But wise people have always told us that the most important thing is to find the truth within ourselves. Everything we need is right here in our hearts. The ancient temple of Orpheus in Delphi used to say, "Everything in the world comes from you." But modern society has forgotten this. Tamaras is a wise teacher today who reminds us of this. Everything we need is right inside of us. The ancient temple of Orpheus in Delphi used to say, "We are the source and origin of all things." This idea is still alive today in the words of Tamaras, a wise teacher. Tamaras's message is simple: we are all connected, and we are enough. Our existence does not depend on anything outside of ourselves. This idea, though it may seem simple, can have a powerful effect on our minds. The simple truth of these older traditions can be a bit rough, but it's there to help you find what you're looking for. You don't need anything from the outside world because you're a part of it. This might seem simple, but it's actually pretty deep. It's like a mirror that shows what's always inside, like a hidden treasure. There are some parts of a mysterious old book called the Gospel of the Perfection that were found in Nag and Maddy, but many scholars and researchers don't pay much attention to it. It says that if you know yourself, you know everything. So, who knows? If you know yourself, you know the whole world. Have you ever had that feeling when you're looking at a mirage and you're like, what's inside me is just as amazing as what I am seeing here? That's exactly what these old Taoist teachings are all about. They are basically like, hey, you don't need anything more than what you've already got. It's like, existence flows effortlessly, and the world is right there waiting for you to wake up and realize your true self. Chuanzu expresses the self-existence with a gentle, natural simplicity that shows us the incredible power of spontaneous manifestation and miraculous, effortless creation. Similarly, the wise teacher Sufite Bastami shared in one of his less well-known speeches, "I looked for God in all parts of the universe and all the lands, but finally discovered that he was myself, in the deepest part of my being." In these words, Bastami reveals how self-existence does not. It is only the miracle key, but also the culmination of the ultimate spiritual search, a complete return to the center where the search engine, duality, and search disappears, leaving only one eternal presence that is enough in itself. What does it really imply? Recognize this self-existence. How could you transform specifically? In these words, Bastami reveals how self-existence is the miracle key and the culmination of our spiritual search. It's a complete return to the center where the search engine, duality, and search disappear, leaving only one eternal presence that is enough in itself. But what does it really imply? How can you transform your experience of the everyday world to understand this? We must briefly explore the concept of the miracle from its most authentic root. According to the esoteric teachings of medieval Islam, In a little text known as The Hidden Path of Creation, a miracle is not the violation of natural laws, but rather the direct consequence of the divine self. We can understand miracles in our everyday world. Rabbi's teaching tells us that a miracle is not when something goes against nature, but when we see that we are part of something bigger. When we realize that we are self-sufficient, we see the miracles all around us. This is the natural state of our soul. This is where we find the key to our own existence. We just need to recognize our own self. We are all part of a bigger, natural world, and we have the power to create our own reality. This is the magic of life. When we understand this, we can create things without having to work really hard or feel like we need to be validated by others. Life becomes a miracle every day, and it's not just something special, it's the norm. This idea is also found in the Upanishads, especially in the Mundaka Upanishad, which says, "Who recognizes their own self and does not ask, no god or strength superior becomes the same as the source and manifestation of all that is." This overwhelming statement makes echoes through time, gently dispelling any idea of spiritual dependence and emphasizing the incredible power of the self. In the Toltec shamanic tradition, Miguel Ruiz also indirectly alluded to this principle when saying, "The world is a mirror, but who hold that mirror is you." When you finally understand your external reflexes, you realize that every reality emanates from your own existence. It's so lovely to see that here, once again, we're reminded of the incredible power that self-existence has to shape the world. It's almost like it's a magical power, you know. The expression self-existence might sound a little mystical and powerful, but it was METAPHYSICAL who first used it in their sermons. They said, God is pure existence. It's so beautiful to see how self-existence has the incredible power to shape the world. It's like this deep, mystical force that's always there, just waiting for us to tap into it. METAPHYSICAL said it best, God is pure existence. When you understand this, you realize that you don't need anything because you're already part of the divine. This radical statement holds the true essence of everything. So, when you discover self-existence, you're not just realizing that you're enough, you're also tapping into your inner divinity. When the soul understands this truth, it stops searching for things outside and starts recognizing the miracles within. This isn't something rare, it's the natural flow of the universe through the being that is self. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm happy to share with you the path to a life of calm, freedom, and fulfillment. It starts with a deep recognition that we are already blessed with everything we could ever want. There's nothing more beautiful than celebrating each new day, knowing that our existence is a miracle in itself. It's like a chapter 15 beyond the law, where we don't need to follow any rules because our beauty and love are eternal. Everything in the world is in harmony with you. There's a deep, mysterious knowledge that's been passed down through the ages in old manuscripts and secret doctrines. It's a curious thing, but it seems to have a secret that confuses and enthralls everyone, from the wise ones to even search engines. It's like a special moment in time when we humans realize that we don't need to follow any external laws. We're finally free, and we realize that it's the universe itself that's following our rules. This moment of enlightenment is talked about in many different texts, and it's a beautiful thing. The beautiful union of two souls, a journey back to the heart of ourselves, and the powerful message of the Hermetic Papyrus, also known as Hermes's Revelation. Asclepius shares a passage that's not often quoted, but it's full of wisdom. When we stop following the rules of the world, people naturally look up to us. They see in our silence the voice of the divine. This phrase, found in fragments that survive the trials of religious persecution, speaks volumes about love and connection. It's so interesting how it reveals the fundamental core of supreme spiritual awakening. It's like the ultimate realization that any law external is just a passing reflex of the deeper power that lives in the interior of the human being. It's here, in cancellation, aware and liberating, where the secret is. Last of all, Padmasambhava, a spiritual Tibetan mystic, expressed this paradox in an extraordinary way. He was known in the West just through collected fragments for his disciples and preserved in inaccessible monasteries. The one who exceeds all rule, all teaching, and all doctrine is recognized by the gods themselves, who prostrate before the Paravisible because they have seen the supreme freedom of which all laws are. This surprising passage proceeds. It's almost heretical for orthodox doctrines, but it's an invitation to chaos, not radical recognition of authority internal. The gods themselves recognize the one who exceeds all rule, all teaching, and all doctrine. They prostrate before the Paravisible because they have seen the supreme freedom of which all laws are. This surprising passage proceeds. It's almost heretical for orthodox doctrines, but it's an invitation to chaos. It's a radical recognition of authority, an internal essence that does not need laws because it is in itself all of law. This revelation also finds echoes in censored Christian texts by the Church. For example, the writings of the medieval monk Mystic affirm with dangerous clarity, the soul truly ibered and does not follow law, some because she is in her nature divine, the creator of laws and worlds. Double quote. Eckhart understood that when it transcends the attachment to doctrines and commandments, external being reaches a state supreme from which you can observe as reality itself submits to its silent will, not because there is violence or effort, but because he has finally recognized his absolute unit with the creative source of the cosmos. In the most hidden texts of the Kabbalistic tradition, especially in the forgotten treaty called Sacragilbulin, reveal this deep truth with a beautiful nuance. Rabbi Isaac Luria suggests that any law and obligation exists only to guide you to the point where you no longer need any guidance. When you reach this place, you will have entered the true domain of God. There, you will the texts of the Kabbalistic tradition, especially the forgotten treaty called Sacragilbulin, offer us a glimpse into this deep truth. Rabbi Isaac Luria beautifully captures this sentiment when he says that any law and obligation exists only to guide us to the point where we no longer need any guidance. When we reach this place, we discover that we no longer obey, but we are obeyed. Luria, writing these words reserved only for initiates, beautifully expresses that the ultimate goal of all spiritual discipline is to free ourselves from this. This same idea is poetically described in the scarce verses of the power of the poet Sufi Lumi, which acquire an even more challenging. You will come to realize that you are not the one obeying, but rather, you are being obeyed. Luria, in his writings, which were reserved only for initiates, beautifully conveyed that the ultimate goal of all spiritual disciplines is to liberate yourself from this. This same idea is poetically expressed in the few verses of the Sufi poet Rumi, whose words carry an even more profound tone. I have journeyed so far to God that I have finally lost myself in Him, and now the entire universe comes to me in these simple verses. But they are incredibly deep. Rumi beautifully expresses that when you relinquish your submission to any external law, your soul recognizes itself as an incarnate God and therefore as the ultimate source from which everything draws gravity. I've traveled so much to God that I've finally lost sight of Him. Now, the entire universe travels to me in these simple verses. But the soul recognizes herself as an incarnate God and therefore as the ultimate source to which everything gravitates. Obedience isn't about going along with something just because, it's about really seeing and accepting the world as it is. Every law exists to guide us to the edge of mystery, where we can recognize our true nature. The medieval philosopher and alchemist Paracelsus said something really important about this in one of his less well-known but crucial treatises. Wizard is not someone who just follows the laws of the cosmos, he's the one who leads the cosmos in following those laws. He's seen further than anyone else, revealing the hidden face of his own spirit. Immortal here, Paracelsus beautifully reveals the alchemical foundation of this truth. When you know its essence more deeply, you no longer just know, you become the absolute sovereign of the kingdom of the invisible. This deep knowledge of the self. Hey, have you ever thought about how authority is mentioned in the Old Taoist texts? Especially in the mysterious teachings of the Master El Zeju. He believed that a wise person doesn't just blindly obey others or rules, but rather, they naturally follow what they recognize as true. They understand that the ultimate power behind reality comes from following their own inner guidance, rather than blindly following rules or doctrines. It's like we're all connected to something greater, and we just allow ourselves to be guided by that. The cosmic law, the law that arises spontaneously from consciousness, is like a warm, welcoming light that awakens you. This is the beautiful peak of the spiritual journey that we've been talking about in these pages. When the soul is finally free from the burden of obedience and even more people let go of the spiritual law, the whole cosmos naturally falls in line. It's not because they are submitting to something, but because they are filled with a deep sense of recognition and freedom. They've reached the radiant summit of. This is a really important revelation. It shows you that you're more than the law itself. You're more than the path of the disciple. You're ready to take your true place as master of the universe. You don't need to ask or obey. You just need to listen to the infinite silence of the cosmos. You've always hoped to recover its legitimate sovereignty. It's a really great feeling when you know you're in control. You don't need to obey anything or anyone. You're already doing that. You've recognized your divine essence. You're original. You're never going to submit, or you've always been the only one, and you've always been the true authority. When you let go of that deep understanding, you realize that there are no external laws to follow, no paths to follow, and no teachers to whom you can prostrate. You realize that the whole universe recognizes you as an eternal void, and that it serves you silently. You realize that you are finally free from all obedience. You realize that you need nothing but yourself. Eternal, this and only this is the real awakening. Amen.